We stand here today to remember and celebrate the lives of those who were lost 15 years ago as they flew into Dubrovnik on a trade mission led by then Secretary of Commerce Ronald Brown. Like many in the room, I remember the day of that crash well, and today's ceremony is especially emotional for me as I personally worked with Secretary Brown, and many of my colleagues and friends were lost that day. It's a sad day for me, my colleagues, and most of all for the families and loved ones of those who perished. This morning, many of us hiked to the memorial cross that stands atop that mountain to mark the place of the crash, and seeing it made me feel a strong sense of appreciation for those who built it and have maintained it for the last 15 years in honor of the lives lost there.
On April 3rd, 1996, I was totally heartbroken after losing my mother and was looking for an answer to many questions and trying to find a way to continue with my life. I thank the American government, especially Honorable Ambassador Mr. Galbraith, for providing substantial assistance and support in those difficult days. Ever since, on April 3rd, my heart and my thoughts are here in Dubrovnik. I thank the city authorities for representing all of us in our prayers and paying tribute and bringing flowers to our loved ones all the way to the cross on top of the mountain. I also thank the County of Dubrovnik and the Croatian government for organizing this memorial house in which we can all remember our family, friends, and colleagues.
Yesterday, we commemorated a terrible tragedy that befell the United States of America. We lost our Secretary of Commerce and 34 others traveling with him to Dubrovnik for a really noble purpose to bring hope to a war-torn region. And this was a very emotional experience. I'd never been to the crash site, and we climbed that mountain, and it took a long time, and it's very steep, and it's a forlorn place, but with a beautiful monument. And we had a beautiful moving ceremony there to remember all of those victims.
So many of you welcomed me when I arrived here that April day in 1996 with much warmth. And it really impressed upon me the importance of really being in this place for all of these people who died, and the others, there were 35, as you know, 2 Croatians, members of the business community, and today to see 3 of the companies here, to see Bechtel and Parsons, to know that Bechtel has done such wonderful work right here in this country in terms of the roads that are being built, to know that the mission still carries such significance and that the legacy carries on.
I, myself, in those days was a diplomat coming often to this part of the world, and for those of you who weren't here, I can tell you that it was a far different place in Croatia in 1996 than it is today. This country was just emerging from the very dark days of a long war. It was beginning the process of rebuilding, establishing a national identity, getting itself back together. Ron Brown absolutely wanted the United States to be part of that process, to assist this country in any way it could in the rebuilding process, and he wanted to be sure the United States private sector was also involved because he believed it had much to offer. So I think that if Ron Brown and Stu Tolan were here in Croatia today, they'd say, yes, there's still a lot to do, but this country has come a very, very long ways in 15 years. Croatia has taken its place certainly in Europe, as well as the international community, and is well on the way to a bright and a prosperous future. And I think it's fair to say that Ron Brown, Stu Tolan, and all their colleagues on that delegation were there at the beginning.
The significance of today is hope and the legacy of Ron Brown and what it can mean in terms of building, renewing, prospering, what can happen for this region, and what actually kind of a retrospective of what has happened since 1996.
Ronald Brown, Catherine Hoffman, Dwayne Christian, Carol Hamilton, William Morton, Charles Meisner, Gail Dobert, Lawrence Payne, Adam Darling, Stephen Kaminsky, Naomi Warbase, Catherine Kellogg, James Lewick, Lee Jackson, Dragica Lendić-Bebek, Niksha Antonini, Nathaniel Nash, Barry Conrad, Paul Cushman, Robert Donovan, Claudio Elia, Leonard Pieroni, John Scoville, Donald Turner, Stuart Tholen, David Ford, Frank Meyer, Walter Murphy, Robert Whitaker, Captain Ashley Davis, Captain Timothy Schaefer, Staff Sergeant Gerald Aldrich, Staff Sergeant Robert Farrington Jr., Tech Sergeant Cheryl Turnage, Tech Sergeant Shelley Kelly.